It's really a shame, right? When you have high expectations or you're really excited about a player going into an NBA season and they just flat out disappoint you. And in today's video, I want to go through every single NBA team and in my opinion, go over who I think is the most disappointing player on that squad. And just to clarify, this is pretty much who I think has been disappointing. Now, it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that we thought that they could have taken a jump this year. We thought that they could have maybe gone from maybe star status to superstar status, role player to starter, or just thought would be a little bit better this year. Also, injuries are going to be accounted for as well, because it is kind of a bummer when somebody gets injured. It is disappointing. And even it could go back on coaching as well. I'll definitely mention some poor coaches in this video that ended directly up to being a player being disappointing. So we just got to keep a couple things in mind. I don't want to offend you if this is one of your favorite players, but just my reasoning is I think that we could have seen them be a little bit better or have just seen a little bit more from them this season. So if you guys do enjoy these videos, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up and let's get into this. All right, so let's start things off with the Brooklyn Nets and let's talk about Mikal Bridges. Now, you could definitely mention so many other guys on the Nets. You could talk about Ben Simmons once again. You could talk about Cam Johnson, who got a bag in the offseason. You could talk about Dorian Finney-Smith and Nick Claxton and maybe Jock Vaughn at times as well. But I want to talk about Mikal Bridges, who we thought last year was going to break out based off the 27-game sample size we saw in Brooklyn after the KD trade. In those 27 games, he averaged 26 points, 4.5 rebounds, 3 assists a night, and shot 47% from the field and 38% from three. He was the odds-on favorite to win Most Improved this year because we thought that 27-game sample size would project well to him as a full-time #1 option for Brooklyn this year, and has just not worked out whatsoever. He's averaging 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 44% from the field, 36% from three, and still a really good defender, but unfortunately is not a #1 option that we thought he could have been going into this year. The Nets are one of the worst teams in the league right now. They are on pace to have north of 50 losses, and they got offered for Jalen Green and multiple first-round picks by the Rockets at one point for Mikal Bridges, and they probably are regretting that a little bit at this moment. All right, we're going to go over to Chicago, and we're going to talk about Nikola Vucevic, who got paid by the Bulls last offseason. He got $60 million over 3 years, and we didn't really see him improve at all as an offensive hub, especially with an increase in volume with Zach LaVine out. I mean, the points per game has pretty much stayed the same, but the efficiency is kind of falling off a cliff. He's gone from 52% from the field to 48%, 35% from three to 28%. It looks like he lost a step on the defensive end of the floor as well. And I think just getting that extension from Chicago, you'd have a little bit higher expectations from Vucevic, especially with no Zach LaVine this year. We thought that we could have seen more of an impact from Vucevic, but instead we're seeing that from guys like Kobe White, obviously, and even Ayo Dosunmu. And with Vucevic, he's 33 years old. He's not really going to progress anymore, so maybe this is going to be the start of some regression from Vuce. And it is disappointing that he just got a 3-year extension from the Bulls last offseason, so we might just see more and more disappointment from Vuce in Chicago going forward if he's still with the Bulls after this upcoming offseason. For the Golden State Warriors, you can kind of take the Brooklyn Nets approach. It could be a plethora of guys. You could talk about Kevon Mooney. You could definitely talk about Draymond Green. Obviously, Steve Kerr could be mentioned, but we're not going to talk about coaches specifically for each team's spot. So I am going to talk about Andrew Wiggins. Yeah, man, I guess just 2022 was an outlier for Andrew Wiggins. It was an outlier for basically everybody on that Warriors team. You can even talk about Klay Thompson this year as well, but Wiggins has gone from 17 points a night to 13 points. He's also dropped in rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks as well. The field goal percentage is down 2 percentage points. The 3-point percentage is down, and we're seeing him fully healthy again this year. He was kind of inconsistent last year, only playing in 37 games with some off the court things he had to deal with. So this year he's going to play north of 65 games, and Wiggins just does not look like a good enough starter if you're trying to compete in the Western Conference, and that's what the Warriors are trying to do. So I wonder if there would be like a Nikola Vucevic for Andrew Wiggins trade out there, and who would say no, because both of those contracts right now are not looking too hot. So let's talk about somebody that got paid last offseason on his rookie extension. That won't kick in until next year, but it's going to be Jaden McDaniels of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I also thought about mentioning Kyle Anderson here as well, and Jaden McDaniels is still a really good defender. He's still an all defensive caliber guy on that side of the floor. I think the disappointment just comes in a little bit because we thought we could maybe see a little bit of a jump on the offensive end in his age 23 season. Not only the points down, the assists are down, the rebounds are down, but also just the field goal percentage is down. He's now shooting under 50% from the field field, the three-point percentage on a little bit more volume has gone from 40% to 35%. The free throw percentage has dropped as well, and it's kind of been inconsistent at times where you'll see some really nice 20-point per game outcomes for McDaniels, especially with no Karl Anthony Towns, and then you'll just see some other games where he's just non-existent in some quarters or in a second half in general. So I think this comes back to like Jaden McDaniels is still a good player and he's very young and has a ton of potential, and we know how good he is on the defensive end of the floor. I just think the disappointment comes in a little bit, just not seeing an offensive jump in year 4. I guess this guy could also be disappointing every single year, and it's crumble cookie himself, Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris, you know what, usually is pretty good in a contract year, and this is going to be most likely his final year in Philadelphia. And with Joel Embiid out, I thought we would maybe see Harris impact the Sixers a little bit more, like we've seen from Tyrese Maxey and some other guys as well in the absence of Embiid. But I just feel like with Tobias, he's just super inconsistent. I mean, the field goal percentage has dropped from last year. The three-point percentage is not very good as well, 33% on 3.5 attempts a night. I feel like he doesn't hustle enough on the defensive end of the floor, and we know he's kind of a relatively slow forward as well. But I feel like if you just go into his games and you watch it, you don't know what Tobias Harris you're getting basically since mid-January. There could be games where he drops 31 points on 68% efficiency and a nice win, or he's dropping 8 points on horrible efficiency against a non-playoff team. And I just think that's where the disappointment settles in with Tobias Harris, just a flat-out inconsistency. For the Toronto Raptors, I want to talk about somebody that they got in the Pascal Siakam trade, and that's Bruce Brown. I mean, there was a point where we thought Toronto could flip Bruce Brown for 1 or even 2 protected first-round picks. And ever since coming over from Indiana, his points have dropped from 12 to 9, the rebounds have dropped, the assists have dropped, the minutes have dropped, the efficiency has dropped, and he just does not look like somebody that would go for even a first-round pick in a trade right now. And you maybe thought that the Raptors could even pick up his team option just to have that on the table going into next year. That just doesn't look like it's happening whatsoever at this point. So yeah, just a really weird season for Bruce Brown, just not playing in a very high-volume role-playing offense that he had in Denver last year with the championship Nuggets team. He has been playing a little bit better as of late, but I do want to talk about Josh Giddey as a whole this season for the OKC Thunder. And obviously there's been the off-the-court issues with Josh Giddey as well to start off the year, but the way he finished off year number 2 for the Thunder, we thought that the sky was the limit for the versatile guard, forward who could rebound, pass, and shoot a little bit. Like, Giddey did average 16.5 points last year and shooting 48% from the field, also tagged along 6 assists and 8 rebounds, and was phenomenal down the stretch for them in their play-in tournament push. But this year, everything has kind of just dropped off a little bit. Like I said, he has been playing better as of late and got off to an abysmal start. I'm sure the off-the-court things were affecting him mentally, but just from play alone, he was very disappointing from November pretty much all the way till February. He has been better as of late, but I still think warrants that spot on this list because we thought there could be a bigger year 3 jump from Josh Giddey, like what we've seen from maybe a Scotty Barnes or an Alperun Şengün this season. You can also mention Gordon Hayward as well, who's been disappointing since acquiring him at the deadline, but I think Josh Giddey had high enough expectations this year where we thought he could take a leap, and we just haven't seen that whatsoever, even though we've seen leaps from Shea, J-Dub, and Chet Holmgren. Speaking of leaps this year, I think we could have seen something a little bit more impressive from Keldon Johnson in San Antonio. Keldon Johnson's numbers are down across the board. He's gone from 22 points to 15.5. His assists are down. His efficiency has stayed relatively the same, but I feel like his defense is all over the place at times, and Pop has been inconsistent with his playing time. And I thought this could be a really big year 5 for Keldon Johnson, fresh off that contract extension as well. Somebody that was a, honestly, relatively amazing deal that could have been a nice scoring forward adjacent to Victor Wembanyama, but we've seen more from Devin Vassell this year and less of Keldon Johnson, and I thought he would have been at least on the Vassell level, so that's why he's making this list. Man, I loved AJ Griffin out of Duke and going into the 2022 draft, and he had such an encouraging rookie year as a 3-and-D wing. He basically shot 40% from 3 as a 19-year-old and played good defense, but there's been off-the-court issues, there's been injuries this year involving his ankle that is just pretty much been a non-existent sophomore year. It's super weird. He's played in 18 games, averaging just 7 minutes a night in those 18, shooting 28% from the field, 27% from 3, and averaging 2.1 points, and is just really not part of the Hawks' future, it seems like, anymore. I know his dad, Adrian Griffin, was fired from the Milwaukee Bucks earlier this year, so there's definitely some off-the-court issues going on with AJ Griffin. I was just so high on him coming out of Duke. He really showed out in his rookie year as a non-lottery pick for Atlanta last year, but he's just fallen off the face of the earth this year, so that's been pretty disappointing. For the Pistons pick, it could definitely come back to coaching with Monty Williams giving this guy some inconsistent playing time to start off the year, but I do want to talk about Jaden Ivey, another guy from the 2022 draft. Ivey had a rough start to his rookie year playing without Cade Cunningham last year, but looked really good and comfortable in the second half of his rookie season, and he finished strong, but this year he's been kind of all over the place. There was a nice stretch in February, but pretty much outside of that, due to the inconsistent playing time, the inefficiency, just the lack of playmaking ability from Ivey in year 2, it's been very disappointing. His points have gone down, the assists have gone down as well, which does make sense now that Cade Cunningham is back, but you'd still like him to be a more efficient combo guard for Detroit. The three-point shot does not look any better. I feel like he's been inconsistent at the rim at times as well, and he's still just 21 years old, so I think he will be fine going forward. I'm still a big fan of Jaden Ivey. I just thought we'd see a little bit more from him in year number 2 after finishing off the second half of his rookie season on a high note. So for Dallas, I thought about I was going to talk about Tim Hardaway Jr., but honestly, I know what this guy is at this point, and he is just very frustrating to watch at times for Dallas. But I want to talk about Josh Green from the 2020 draft. Now, Green got extended from Dallas as well, and I think finishing off year number 3 on a very high note, looking like a true building block for this Mavericks future, has taken a little bit of a step back or just not really taken a step forward for Dallas this season in year 4. He's had injuries. He's out right now with an ankle injury, and I think just inconsistent play from Green at times warrants a spot on this list. The offense is down a little bit. I mean, he still projects to be a good 3-and-D player, and I still think he's a good young player. I would want Josh Green on my team. I just thought we would see a little bit of a step forward from him in year 4, based off the way he finished last year, and based off the contract extension as well. So you would have liked to see a 23-year-old Green take a little bit more of a step, make a little bit more of an impact for this Mavericks team this year with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, but maybe we'll see that in year 5 next year in 2025. I really had no idea who to go with the Phoenix Suns. I didn't really have high expectations for Yusuf Nurkic, but I'm actually going to talk about Bradley Beal. Now, it's not like Phoenix really gave up a ton for Bradley Beal, but Bradley Beal is making up so much money. Phoenix does not own pretty much any draft pick going forward. Beal has been inconsistent with playing time this year. He's going to finish with around 50 games, and he's just a fine number 3 option. He is scoring an efficient 18 points a night, but I don't think it was really worth it mortgaging all your financial flexibility, most of your draft capital going forward with second-round picks and pick swaps, because you were pretty much already gutted there after the Kevin Durant trade. And maybe we saw like more of a playmaking Beal this year, or just seen him healthy a little bit, but he's 30 years old. He's going to continue to get older and still probably be inconsistent with his playing time, and the contract is not pretty whatsoever. It goes up to $50 million next year, $53 million in 26, $57 million in 2027 as a number 3 option. Yeah, I just think Bradley Beal's been disappointing in his first year in Phoenix, just as an overall 3rd option for them. I did say earlier that injuries could play into my effect of adding somebody onto this list, and that's going to be LaMelo Ball of the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo kind of got off to a rough start this year, but had an amazing 15-game stretch before getting injured, and it looked like LaMelo Ball could have been an all-star this season, and was definitely playing like that, but just another disappointing year for LaMelo Ball just staying healthy. He played 51 games as a rookie, was healthy in year 2, playing 75 games, helped lead the Hornets to a playing tournament team, their best year in a little while, and then last year plays in just 36 games, season's cut short. This year just plays in 22 games, and once again, the season is cut short. I just think we could see LaMelo Ball take a step as maybe a borderline top 15 guy in this league, and one of the best young players overall, but we just have to keep pushing it back a year and back a year because of the injuries he has suffered earlier in the season. I could talk about 2 guys for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Both of them did suffer injuries this season, which I want to clarify, but I wanted to talk about first Darius Garland. I think Darius Garland falls into that bucket where I thought he could have taken a step this year forward as one of the better point guards in the league. He was phenomenal last year for the Cleveland Cavaliers. This year, though, feels like his confidence is down a little bit. He could be playing through some injuries as well. He's had the jaw injury. He's currently nursing an ankle injury, but the numbers are down across the board. The efficiency is down as well. The playmaking is down, and like I said, the confidence has taken a hit. I don't think that Garland is a bad player whatsoever. He's still a really good player. I just thought he could have taken a leap as being one of the better point guards overall in the NBA, or maybe even had a chance of being the best point guard in the Eastern Conference. But we've seen jumps from like Halliburton and Brunson this year, but we didn't see that from Darius Garland. And for Evan Mobley, still a really good player, still a really impactful defensive guy when he's healthy, but that's a thing. I feel like he's just been inconsistent with injuries this year. We haven't seen that offensive jump for him yet, and I really thought we could see it this year, and I think the underlying statistics show that it's still possible from his play in just 41 games this season, but just the constant injuries have limited that jump and progression for Mobley on the offensive end. I hate to put a rookie on here, but I do think I had high expectations for Scoot Henderson in his rookie season. Now, the Trailblazers are a mess. I don't really like Chauncey Billups as a head coach, and usually rookie guards tend to be inefficient because they're so young. They're trying to just create a little bit more at the NBA level. It's a tough adjustment period for most of them, but Scoot's efficiency has not been pretty. 37% from the field, 30% from 3, back and forth between in the starting lineup and coming off the bench, which I do blame Chauncey Billups for, and I think that's affected a little bit of his rookie year development. And I think Scoot is actually going to be a good shooter in this league going forward, and I'm excited to see him hopefully as the full-time starting point guard in year number 2. I just thought we'd see him close to like what Brandon Miller is doing this year with the Charlotte Hornets, and not somebody who may not even make an all-rookie team overall this year. For the LA Lakers, I feel like you could talk about a bunch of guys, and I just think Gabe Vincent's been disappointing this year. He's had injuries the whole year, but I think Lakers fans were so excited to see him after watching him ball out for the Miami Heat in the playoffs last season. He's going to come back healthy pretty soon, but just somebody that only played in 5 games, is going to miss most of the regular season, making a decent amount of money. I don't think Lakers fans should have had high expectations for him, but you could also talk about Christian Wood as well. I think Jared Vanderbilt has been disappointing here in his second season as a Laker, and he's been dealing with some injuries as well. So I think it's those role players for the Lakers that have been a little disappointing, because it's definitely not D'Lo, it's not Reeves, and obviously it's not LeBron or AD. Man, I thought this was going to be such a big year for Markelle Fultz. I thought we were going to finally see him break out in a contract year. Could have been one of the better younger point guards in the Eastern Conference. But no, we're kind of seeing him going back to his pre-Orlando Magic days in Philadelphia. I feel like the confidence isn't there. The jump shot does not look good whatsoever. He's going to play in less than 45 games this year, also dealing with injuries this year. And at 25 years old, he's averaging 7.5 points, 3 assists, not really taking any threes whatsoever after we finally saw him take some last year, in which was like his second fully healthy season and the first since 2020. I'm surprised Orlando didn't trade him at the deadline. Maybe nobody really wanted to give up any assets for him, but I thought we were going to see a jump from Markelle Fultz this year. I was really excited to see it, and we have just taken a step back from maybe even getting close to what we thought he could be coming out of Washington in the 2017 draft. The Washington Wizards and like their fans had to be a little excited about getting Jordan Poole in the offseason. They knew that the team wasn't going to be good this year, but at least Poole had a chance to maybe flirt with the scoring record somewhat. But we have not seen that from Poole this year. Like, the efficiency has gone down from last year in Golden State, which was down from the year prior in 2022, where he really broke out. He's made some boneheaded decisions on the offensive end of the floor. Like I said, has been inefficient, not a good defender whatsoever. But Jordan Poole has been playing better as of late, which is a nice thing to see, and hopefully he can carry that along into the 2025 season in year 2 in Washington. But like I said, he's been good over the last 2 weeks, but that can't really deny how disappointing he has been in the first 75% of this season. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. Nobody is trading for Jordan Poole, and he's making $30 million next year, $31 million in 2026, and $35 million in 2027. For the LA Clippers, it was kind of weird as well. I mean, you could talk about James Harden post All-Star break. It's been disappointing. I'm going to talk about Terrence Mann a little bit, because I think that we still had somewhat of hope that he could maybe improve on that 2022 season. Took a little bit of a step back last year, but the efficiency was up and looked like a really good role player. I just feel like the expectations for Terrence Mann were somewhat high to keep improving as a role player this year in year number 5, and we just really haven't seen it from the Clippers. But I don't know, the Clippers were kind of tough to rank, so I'd love to know who you would choose in the comments. Now, also, I need your help on this one. The Houston Rockets. Like, I was fully ready to talk about Jalen Green, but this dude is playing on another planet as of late. Like, Jalen Green, over his last 15 games, has been averaging 29 points, 6 rebounds, and on elite efficiency as well, 49% from the field, 42 from 3, and 82 from the line. But the previous 58 games, he was averaging 17.5 points, 3.5 assists on 40% field goal percentage, 30% three-point percentage, and just did not look like a consistent part of the Rockets' core, and maybe his future was up in the air. So I don't know. Jalen Green has been playing very well as of late. You could have also mentioned Jock Londale, but he's been playing better as of late now that Alperen Şengün is hurt. Maybe we thought there could have been a bigger jump from Jabari Smith Jr. in year number 2. So I'm going to still go with Jalen Green, but if you didn't really think that he's been super disappointing this year based off of the last 14 games, I'm okay with that. Zeke Naji got paid from the Denver Nuggets as well. He basically signed a 4-year extension, making around $8.5 million a year, and I just think we thought we could have seen a little bit of a jump from him this year in year number 4 for Denver, but the play is just down across the board from last year. He has been playing a little bit better after the All-Star break. I know he's been dealing with some back issues this year as well, but I just think with Christian Braun staying strong as a good role player for them, Peyton Watson taking a step this year, I thought we'd see some of that from Zeke Naji, especially after he got paid, but he's been disappointing. You can't deny that. For the Milwaukee Bucks, maybe you thought that Damian Lillard was going to make more of an impact in his first year in Milwaukee, but I'm going to go with MarJon Beauchamp, who I really thought was going to take a big year 2 jump for them. I really like the underlying numbers for MarJon Beauchamp in his rookie season, and he got off to a really good start in year number 2, but Adrian Griffin, Doc Rivers, has not prioritized the development whatsoever. Maybe I'm overrating MarJon Beauchamp, but I thought it would have been really valuable for Milwaukee to have a cost-effective, young 3-and-D wing for them, and it's just not seen that at all, and he's already 23 years old. So I just thought we were going to see a jump from Beauchamp in year number 2, and we have not seen that whatsoever for this this Milwaukee Bucks team. For the New York Knicks, I think it's pretty much going to be their Detroit Pistons additions at the 2024 trade deadline. First, Alec Burks, who has dropped in numbers across the board, which we knew was going to happen because he was going to be in a lesser volume role in New York, but the efficiency has dropped from 39% from the field to 32%. The three-point percentage has dropped from 40% to 30%. 90% from the line to 71% from the line. It just feels like he forgot how to shoot since he got traded to the New York Knicks. And also Bojan Bogdanovic has been a little bit disappointing as well. He's been playing somewhat better as of late, but the numbers are also down across the board in terms of efficiency, down 47% to 40% from the field, 42% from three to 36% from three. And him and Burks just look like a weird fit so far in their short tenures as New York Knicks, because you really couldn't go with anybody else, because I feel like every other person on the Knicks this year has exceeded expectations. For the Memphis Grizzlies, I think we were all excited about Marcus Smart in his first year in Memphis, and he's just had a plethora of injuries this season, only appearing in 20 games. The efficiency is not fantastic. He's shooting 43% from the field in those, 31% from three, still sub 80% from the line, and he still looks impactful on the defensive end of the floor. I just thought that it would have been more exciting to watch him in a full season in Memphis, so this one pretty much comes back on injuries. Just everybody in Memphis has been hurt this year. You could go with maybe not seeing a set from like Zaire Williams or Jake LaRavia, or before traded David Roddy, but I really didn't expect too much from that trio this season, so that's why I'm going to end up going with Marcus Smart. For the New Orleans Pelicans, I think it's Dyson Daniels, who I thought we could have seen a year two jump from as well, and the defensive potential is still totally there, and he's going to be out most likely for the rest of the season with a knee injury, but just not seeing that offensive progression hurts a little bit. Now, he's still just 20 years old, but the efficiency really hasn't improved. I don't think he's going to be a good shooter whatsoever, and I also don't know if the playmaking ability is going to be there as well, so I don't think he's going to be a true point guard, maybe what we saw out of the G League Ignite. And I'm really interested to see what Dyson Daniels' fit is going to look like next year, with Herb Jones and Trey Murphy improving. You got Jordan Hawkins in the wings as well, and the Pelicans might have another lottery pick if the Lakers don't make the playoffs. For the Miami Heat, let's talk about Tyler Hero. You could also mention kind of their veteran big man backup depth like Thomas Bryant or Kevin Love. I just think not seeing Hero this season has been a little disappointing. He's had a noticeable foot injury, and he had a chance to really kind of prove the haters wrong after the Heat made it to the finals with him sidelined with an injury last year. So this is similar to the Marcus Smart nomination. It's really just the injuries and not being able to watch him play on every night has been disappointing. Man, I'm sure we all thought that we were going to see somewhat of a jump from Walker Kessler in year two. He finished third in Rookie of the Year voting last year. He even played for Team USA in the FIBA World Cup in the summer, and just everything's kind of down across the board for Walker Kessler. The minutes have stayed the same, but the efficiency is down, the rebounding is down, the inside scoring is down, and I don't know. I just thought that we could have seen Walker Kessler really excel and be one of the better young big men in the league, and while he still is, I think he's just stayed pretty stagnant from year one to year two. I just thought we were going to see a little bit more of a sophomore year jump. For the Sacramento Kings, we're going to talk about somebody that just got ruled out for the season with season-ending shoulder surgery, and that is going to be Kevin Huerter. Huerter's numbers are pretty much down across the board. He was an elite three-point shooter last year for the Kings in his first year in Sacramento, but now he's just shooting 36% from three. He's down from 48% to 44% from the field. There was really no improvement in the playmaking, and I think it was always between like who's going to be that third best guy for them, Malik Monk or Kevin Huerter, and Malik Monk has definitely ran away with that. And obviously you have Keegan Murray into the mix as well, and I think like similar with Tobias Harris before, it's really just the inconsistency from Kevin Huerter this year. Like you may get like an elite shooting night, he may knock down 5 threes, shoot 50% on them, and then the following night he's going to miss 7 different threes, and it's just kind of the back and forth with Huerter this year that has made him pretty disappointing. For the Indiana Pacers, this was kind of tough as well. You could have talked about Andrew Nembhard, but I don't really think that's on him. You could talk about Jarris Walker, but that's definitely on Rick Carlisle, so I'm going to mention Benedict Mathurin, who did show flashes this year at times, but I think there was a lot of inconsistencies with his game, and I think Pacers fans thought they were going to see a little bit more of a jump in year two from him after seeing some encouragement from year one, because he was a really good rookie right out of the gate out of Arizona. He had a really good stretch too at the end of December and early in January, but then inconsistent play after they got Pascal Siakam, and then going to be out for the rest of the season, so injuries play in part of this as well, so that's why I'm going to talk about Benedict Mathurin for the Pacers. And lastly, for the Boston Celtics, yeah, I don't really have anybody that really can make this list. They've been kind of perfect this season. So if you guys did enjoy this video, let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these selections in the comments below. Like I said, I don't think that most of these guys are bad players whatsoever. I just thought we had higher expectations going into the 2024 season, and even injuries have made it somewhat disappointing because we can't really watch them at all. So if you guys did enjoy, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you're not already. My podcast links are in the description as well. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.